great content. So our agenda for the day, we're going to have an introduction by our president of the Ad Club and some housekeeping by Chris. We're going to have 2 panels for you today, so stick around. Our peer stories as well as our professional perspectives, and stay right to the end because we do have lots of prizes that we're going to be announcing at the end as well as throughout the session. So as Josh said, lots of engagement. We're really excited to have you all here. This is for you and to get what you want out of this, and we hope it's valuable. Before we begin, I do just want to acknowledge that the land that we're virtually meeting on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Also want to wish everyone a happy Diwali, wishing you all love and light. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I want to also give a big thank you to our 2021 Ad Club Student Committee. A big virtual round of applause. Everyone here that you see on the screen has worked tirelessly for weeks to pull this event together. So huge thank you to the team. Also, if you are interested in ever volunteering with the Ad Club, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, and we always have lots of opportunities. So thank you to the team for putting this together, and we hope that everyone has a great time.
And a quick reminder to our panelists and everyone on Ad Club, drop your LinkedIns in the chat there, and so everyone can follow as well.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ad Club's Student Day. Thank you for coming out today. It's going to be an awesome event. My name is Chris Ramey. I am the president of the Advertising Club of Toronto. For those of you who are not familiar with the Ad Club, we are a not-for-profit organization that puts on both social and educational events for the advertising and marketing industries. Now, being a not-for-profit, all the funds that we do raise go to our industry charity NABs and also to student bursaries, so we can help that next generation of students coming into our industry. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the Ad Club, you can visit adclub.ca, see our upcoming events, and you can also sign up for our newsletter so you can follow along with what the Ad Club is doing and what's coming up soon. Now, as Josh and Caitlin mentioned, if you would like to become part of the Ad Club or help out with our events, just reach out to myself or any of the Student Day committee via LinkedIn, and we're happy to have you join our team. Now, also like to let everyone know, we're planning to have a big Digital Day event next spring. It's in the planning process, so please do keep an eye out for it. You can follow us on LinkedIn, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and just keep up to date with us. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a fantastic evening and enjoy our event today. And I'll throw it over to Chris.
Thanks so much, Chris. For those who I've not met yet, my name is Chris Wong, and I am the Ad Club Student Day Vice Chair. Just really want to quickly cover off some event housekeeping items before we dive into our exciting panel discussions. We've got some amazing prizes to give out today from our event sponsors, including M2T Collective, M&K Media, themessage.ca, Spotify, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. Some of these prizes will be part of random draws, including all attendees, and others are going to be based on your engagement both during the panel discussions as well as on social media after the event. So M&K Media has graciously donated 3 $50 gift cards, Amex gift cards, which we'll do a random draw. We'll announce the winners at the end of the event. Pinterest, and specifically Caitlin and Matthew on the Student Day Committee, have donated 2 meet and greets, office tours with 2 Student Day attendees, and we'll be giving out these prizes based on engagement through the first panel discussion. From the M2T Collective Professional Advice Panel, each panel member has offered up a coffee chat with an attendee, again, based on engagement during their panel. themessage.ca, a great kind of online publication that tracks kind of the ins and outs of the media and advertising industry, has graciously donated 150 subscriptions, and we'll be giving these out to the first 150 registrants of the Student Day event. So keep an eye out in your emails for a link to how to subscribe to themessage.ca. LinkedIn has graciously donated 10 6-month premium subscriptions. So these are an amazing prize. It kind of unlocks some additional functionality within LinkedIn, and we'll be giving these out through a random draw again at the end of the event. And then finally, Spotify has donated 3-month premium subscriptions, which we will be monitoring social media kind of post-event. So make sure you both follow the Ad Club, follow the Student Day of Toronto, and use the hashtag Ad Club Student Day in any of your posts. And we'll be monitoring kind of social media for the week, post-event, and randomly selecting 3 people to receive these Spotify subscriptions. So please, we'll remind you in the middle of the event, but yeah, lots of ways to engage with our content, share it, and also engage through the event. We've really designed the event today to leave a lot of time to answer your questions. So be sure to drop them into the chat, both to the panel more broadly, or even to specific panel members. So make sure you go in the chat and drop in your questions. Just as a final heads up, we've had a number of organizations reach out about engaging with this audience, and we've actually invited them to join the event today. So some have offered to post job postings where they're currently looking for folks to join, and they'll be in the chat. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And with that, I think that covers all of my items. I will pass it back to Josh to kick us off.
All right, awesome. Yes, go to everyone on this panel and these panels, search them on LinkedIn, go add them. Everyone here is super open to helping each other out, make connections, and we're all here for y'all. So make sure to do that. First amazing panel, we have Darna, who's gonna kick it off and introduce herself and her panel. And while we transition, I am gonna skillfully turn everyone's camera off. So Darna, if you want to come up to the stage.
Of course, amazing. Thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate it. So hi, everyone. It's so great to be here today, and I'm excited to see some great engagement in the chat. So let's start with our first panel, peer success stories. So today we have Nat Tibais from True Media, Alvin De Services from Omnicom Media Group, and Nikki Mehra from Walmart Connect Canada. So I'm excited to have you here with us today. So we are going to start with an introduction. So Nat, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Darina. And hi, everyone. My name is Nat. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all the Ed Club team, not only for invite me, but also for promoting this event, bringing up this topic, because as a newcomer and as an international student myself, I know how hard and challenging can be moving to a new country. So it's not only about just getting a job in a new country, it's more than that. It involves feelings, all the emotional side. So I just want to say thank you again for bringing this panel. Quickly introduce myself. So my name is Nat. I am from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I've been working in advertising industry for 11 years now, and my background is completely focused on the digital media side. I had the opportunity to work for some big agencies in Brazil, like Ogilvy, Dentsu, Omnicom, IPG Group. I also worked on the client side, so I was responsible for developing strategies and the digital presence for big events in Brazil. And I was really happy with my career, and I'm really passionate about my profession, but I decided to come to Canada for a life-changing experience, and it was an amazing decision. And I consider myself a fresh newcomer because I arrived last year in 2020 in July, and in the middle of the pandemic. So I came to Canada as an international student from Seneca College. I know there are some Seneca people here. It's super nice to see some familiar faces. So I arrived last year, and it was a challenging time, but I've learned so many things and so many strategies about the job market here that my goal here today is to share as much as possible all the steps and everything I did, not only what worked for me, but also what didn't work for me. And I had my first experience here in Toronto, in Canada, in an advertising agency after my first month in Canada. So I started as a digital media specialist in a small agency. And then I moved to my current position as a paid social specialist at True Media. And I'm really grateful for getting my first job here in Canada after 1 month after my landing. But I just want to point out that each person has a completely different path and journey. And you see that all speakers here, we have different journeys. So my goal is really to share what I did and what worked for me. And I really hope that you take all the advices and tips and adapt it to your reality, your goals, and your own experience, and apply in the best way possible for you to get your dream job as soon as possible. So that's my mission here today. I know we have a limited time, so I try to be as much practical and concise as possible, but also share exactly what I did to get my first job here in Canada, even without a previous networking here. So yeah, I hope you like it. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Nat. Thank you so much for sharing. And I can definitely relate because I was a student myself, and I was a Seneca student too, just 2 years ago. So I know how exciting and tough the journey can be. We are excited to hear your answers and your insights. So I just wanted to encourage our audience one more time to please post questions in the chat. First, you can hear some amazing insights, and second, you can get some amazing prizes. So please put your questions in the chat to any of our speakers. We'll wait for that. Thank you so much for your introduction, and let's move to our intro from Nikki Makra. Please introduce yourself to us.
Thank you, Darina. Thank you, everyone. First, thanks so much for joining in today. I am super, super duper excited because few months back, I was sitting on the other side of the table. I was here as an attendee. I was curious to know what people are doing, how they are, bridging the gaps, how they are making it happen. So I moved here in 2018, June, and I have just completed 3 years. It's tough to kind of have or tell all about those 3 years in just 5 minutes, but I'll try my level best. So I moved here, and I moved with approximately a decade of experience in media sales and account management. I was very, very excited to move to Canada. I was super duper confident that I'm going to have a job in my field in 6 months flat. And because I was a salesperson, I gave myself a target of 3 months. If I don't get the job, then I will take whatever comes my way. And after the moment I completed 3 months, I was there at Tim Hortons because I didn't get a job. So I worked there. Then I joined a bridging program. I did a sales and marketing bridging program from Access Employment. When I was working there, when I was doing the bridging program, after 1.5 months completing that, I got a job at TRIAC. So did social, nonprofit organization for 3 months. Then I didn't have a job. Then I got a job for another 6 months in a tech company, which was a new setup. After 6 months, again, I didn't have a job. Then I had to look for another job and was without a job for approximately 6 months, and then COVID happened. So after a lot of back and forth from one industry to the other, I was really disappointed. And then that was the time I realized that probably it's not going to work out like that. I need to focus all my energies on something that I really want. And that's the difference between surviving and thriving. I was surviving for sure, very nicely, but I was not thriving. I was not able to see myself growing in those jobs. And that happened one of the reasons because I didn't stick to one industry. I mean, it could be, you can say that I didn't get an opportunity, or probably nothing got materialized into a longer duration. So yeah, that's how it happened. And then I started being really, really active on LinkedIn. I started connecting with people. I started having people on calls with me, just trying to figure out how do I break into the media space, because that's where I wanted to be. And that's where I wanted I could see myself growing. Then I attended Student Day, and I connected with a couple of people, people who were ready to help me out with my resume, people who were ready to help me out with, job recommendations. And we have a lady in the committee, Caitlin. She was the person who's responsible for, probably I would say she's the reason I got my job today, that I am here at Walmart Connect. It's only because of her. So I'm really thankful to her. And yeah, I think I don't want to go over time. I think this is what my journey is all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this. I like how you how you decided that you want to focus on one thing, and you realize that all the jobs that you're doing might not get you where you want to get. So thank you for sharing such an inspiring story. And I'm sure our audience would love to ask a lot of questions, because I already have a lot of questions for you and Nat. So excited to chat about that. Okay, and our last guest speaker who's asked today on this panel is Alvin De Services. So please introduce yourself to us.
Hi, everyone. Alvin De Souza here. I am the Associate Director for Search and Social at Omnicom Media Group, OMD to be specific. I work on a plethora of clients. I don't want to bore you guys with all the details, but I just want to say that, firstly, I want to set the preamble by saying there's been a lot of conversation in the industry lately about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everyone's talking about it, but AdClub of Toronto is doing it. And this is an example of them getting us all together, newcomers, international students, immigrants, and we're talking about it on this panel. So thank you for putting this together. And that's how I want to set this conversation. And I want to have get this conversation going about diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout this panel as well. And if anyone wants to connect with me later on, I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat as well. So I started my journey in Canada 7 years ago. I moved here as a student to Fanshawe College 7 years ago. Yeah, August 2014. I started doing, I was doing paid social, I started doing marketing management there as a program for 8 months. I struggled to get a job for another 8 months in London, Ontario. One thing led to another. I got a job at IPG Media Brands Prize as a search analyst. Now, I'm going to pause there. I have 9 years of work experience in advertising. I had advertising work experience back home as well. I worked in, and back home for me is Mumbai, India. So I worked in advertising there for a brief 2.5 years, and then I moved to Canada. And I already had the experience, but I couldn't break into the industry. So when I started applying for jobs in like I would say fall of 2015 because I was aggressively applying for jobs. I applied for close to 150 jobs. I'll be honest with you guys. I still have a folder on my Outlook that says I applied for all those jobs, and I had different resumes, cover letters for all these jobs. That's all I did for hours, some nights. So finally, I broke into the industry. I got this job as a search analyst. I had to start from scratch, and I had to get into the industry as a search analyst because I already learned search during my school program. So I got into the industry. I still remember vividly. January 4th, 2016 was my first day at work. And I started working in Toronto. I started working there as a search analyst, and I moved to an agency called Society under IPG, and I started working there as a paid social, I would say, campaign manager. One thing led to another. 3 years ago, Hearts and Science under Omnicom reached out to me to work with them on their P&G portfolio, and then I've been with Omnicom ever since. I moved laterally to OMD around, I would say, 2.5 years ago. I believe, yeah, it was Raptors Parade Day. It was my first day at OMD. I will never forget that day. It was funny because everyone was out there on the streets. I was in the office doing an orientation. So fun stuff. But that's what you do, when you get an opportunity, you raise your hand and you grab the opportunity and you make it happen. And I work on a diverse portfolio of clients across paid search and paid social. I enjoy my job, and I've said this to my boss multiple times. I enjoy the job, and for me, it's beyond 5 p.m. most days because I'm so excited with whatever's given to me, all those opportunities that are given to me. And I've always believed that you got to raise your hand and keep grabbing those opportunities. So I will go on and on about what I do and how I was able to break into the industry, and the word networking that has been thrown around all the time about how do you make it happen. So more than happy to share all those tidbits later on. But this is me. This is Alvin De Souza. And I'm really excited to connect with all of you guys on the panel, as well as all the participants today. Thank you so much. And still here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And honestly, when you mentioned that you applied probably to 150 jobs or more, definitely, I think when you're trying to get a job, it's kind of like it's a full-time job to get a full-time job. So definitely it's like that. But honestly, I think it is worth it in the end of the day. So thank you so much all for sharing your story and your amazing introductions. So we already got some questions, and I'll please encourage you to keep it short and very straightforward, your answer. We will not have a lot of time, so hopefully let's try to answer as many questions as we can. So we got a question from Marcus. How did you guys handle the lack of experience when applying to agencies, or if a student or new grad would like to get on a client side? So Nad, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first thing that you have to have in mind is that if you have experience in your home country, how can you transfer your skills in an effective way in Canada? Because, for example, myself, I was working for many big companies in Brazil, but in Canada, people don't know these brands. So what I tried to do was to, instead of put the name of the brands or the companies I worked for, I tried to create a relation. For example, I worked for one of the biggest telecom companies in Brazil. So when I was in an interview here, I just say that, and not only the company name. So I'd say that if you have an experience in your home country, try to explain in a more effective way and translate your skills for the Canadian market. And yeah, and I would say that LinkedIn is also the perfect way to stand out. If you don't have experience, you can always connect with people. And for example, you can use your projects from college. So you have to find the best way and the best path to translate your skills for another career, if you are transitioning careers, or another job, how you can summarize that for the position you are applying on. So that's my suggestion.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Alvin, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's the first question, right? How did you guys handle the lack of experience? Oh, was it that question? My bad. I'm looking at both chats. Sorry, Daria. My apologies.
Yes, yes. So how do
I
you handle
can-
like this?
Yeah, I can go if you want some
Sure.
time.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so I did apply to agencies and I could never get those jobs. So, and there are two reasons for that. One is either they find me overqualified, or they look at my experience and they say, no, you don't have that experience what they want, which is, I believe, the question, that the lack of experience. I had, a decade of experience from media sales and account management, but I do not have any agency experience. So I would like to answer it from the perspective of a student, maybe somebody who has never worked and is coming straight out of college. I understand that you do not have any work experience in the professional setup, but you might have worked on projects like the way Nat said. You might have worked on events in a team. You might have done anything of that sort where you can highlight those things. So for example, maybe if you have worked a project where you had to do a lot of reporting and you are good at, doing pivot tables, working in Excel sheets, that is something an agency analyst role or coordinator role would kind of value. And Alvin, you can correct me on that if I'm not talking correct. Okay. And so the main idea is that you have to show the transferability of your skills. I may not have worked in that specific professional setup, but I do have those skills. I'm good at Excel. I'm good at building presentations. That's where you have to draw. And I'm sure if the recruiter knows that you are a student, you don't have that professional experience, that's not what they are looking for. They are looking for how confident you are to draw from your life and say that this is what I know and this is what I can do. That's it. I rest my case.
Thank you so much. No, I think it's amazing advice and honestly helped me before when I started too. I didn't have a lot of experience either. So I came from Ukraine. So when I came, it was difficult to translate my experience here and I didn't have enough skills. So I totally understand that. And I think a lot of people that are watching us right now will find it relevant for them too. So when we understood what would be a good ad, right? And we know that this is how we can translate our experience. How would you recommend to network with peers and industry professionals? How would you recommend to do that? And maybe what is success rate like? Did you ever had success with networking online?
Sorry, are you asking the second question?
Yes, about networking. So I'm just trying to
networking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Do you want me to go first?
If you have an answer, please do.
Sure. Yes, networking, the big thing here, the moment you land here, that's what something everybody's going to tell you. It makes sense because networking happens organically in our countries, right? The country, I'm an Indian, so because I have spent 35 years of my life in that country, I didn't have to do it as a deliberate activity. It was something that organically happened. I had my family there. I went to school there. I did my college. I did jobs. I had my relatives. So that network was everywhere around me. But when I land here, I didn't know anyone. So now, when specifically in this case, we are talking about professional network, and it takes time to build that. That's not going to happen in like 6 months. So I want to talk about two things here, or I would say that I would talk about the process here, how I went, and trust me, it took me a lot of time. Number one, and I'm specifically going to talk about LinkedIn here because that's the professional network we all talk about. Number one is target people in sectors organizations and roles that you are targeting for yourself. I wanted to work as an account manager. I look at media companies, I look at the media sector, specifically either broadcast or digital media companies. I will look at account managers or sales directors, connect with them. And when you hit that connect button on LinkedIn, please personalize, please. Second step, when you connect with them, connect with a view of getting a conversation going. I have 2,500 connections on my LinkedIn, but do they know me? No, they don't, because I never had the bandwidth to connect and converse with them. So that's the most important thing. That is something that really, really helped me crack this job. And what is it that you want to talk about? So what I did, because I was really curious, what is it that I am doing wrong from last 2.5 years that I'm not getting a job? I just reached out to them. I said, I came to Canada with this much of experience. I'm having a hard time. Can you give me just 10 minutes of your time and help me understand how to break into Canadian media? This was my simple, to the point message to them. I would say I would send like 10, 15 messages a day. I would get 2 or 3 responses, but people are really helpful, very, very helpful. So they would respond. Trust me, there was a time during this COVID, I had calls every single day with 1 or 2 people, every single day. So that is something that really helped me. So why am I telling you to get on a call with them? Because the idea of making that connection is to put yourself out there and tell them that this is what I did and this is what I want, so that they are clear what this person wants, right? I'm sure there must be 50 people reaching out to them and asking for a job. Do you want to be same? No. And how should I get that confidence that this person is good enough and I should refer this person to a job and not 10 others who are also reaching out to me? You have to make their life and job easy so that they can help you.
Great points. Thank you so much, and seeing some amazing comments in the chat about your response. Thank you so much for being so clear and sharing.
The reason I talk really passionately about it, because I lived it. I was craving for this job for 3 years and I could get it only because of doing these steps. So I have no doubt that it works.
Yes, please, everyone who is watching us today, take notes, honestly, because this is how it works right now. This is really what's going to help you lots when it comes to networking and a job search in general. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else who would like to share about networking? Nat, Ellen?
Yeah. Can I add 2 strategies that I did? When I was back in Brazil, I was using LinkedIn as a way to have my resume online or just to send connection requests for many people there. But when I arrived in Canada, I realized that LinkedIn is more than that, especially for us international students, to building our connections. So exactly what I did was, first, I started contacting my second connections on LinkedIn. So for those who don't know how you can find that, if you go to a profile on LinkedIn, beside the name of the person, there is a number. So could be number 1, 2, or 3. If it is number 1, that means that this person is already your connection. So if it is number 2, means that this person is a friend of a connection. And number 3, it's a more distant connection. So my main focus was to start contacting those second connections, friends of my friends, because we probably have friends in common interests, common groups, community. So you can just start from a point in common. So people are more willing to help if you have like similarities or something common. So that was my first strategy. And the second one was, for example, I am a student from Seneca College. So I went to the Seneca College page on LinkedIn, and there is a tab called Alumni. If you go there, you can use so many filters. For example, you can filter for people who studied creative advertising at Seneca College and also work at Google, for example, or at Pinterest. So you find people who did the same program as you and is working on your dream company, for example. So that's one of the strategies that I used and was really efficient. And I got so many responses using that.
Thank you so much. Amazing strategies and seeing people being super happy. And now I understand what the numbers means, though. Thank you so much for sharing.
Do you mind if I jump in real quick, Daria? Do we have time?
Yes, of course. And I just want to let you know that we have 10 minutes left. So yes, jump in and then I'll do a quick announcement.
Okay, perfect. So I know everyone, Nidhi and Nat, they've covered pretty much everything, but I'll be real quick here. You made the connection, you've got that call, but what are you going to talk about? So that is also very important. So you find that they've given you the tools of how to connect and how to network and how to find those connections and make those connections and schedule that call. But what are you going to talk about during that call? So that's also very important. You need to have a strategy as to how you're going to approach that call as well, because everyone's busy. Everyone's working long hours. So how are you going to have a, I wouldn't say a strategy, but you need to rehearse. You need to put points. You need to grab a pen and paper, which we haven't done in a while because we're all always on our laptops. You need to write everything down. What comes to your mind? What are you going to ask? A list of things that you're going to ask. You're going to be concise with what your background is. What do you bring to the table? You got to be really precise with all those points. Put that in such a way that when you're having that conversation, it's not just like question and answer. It's got to be a very free flowing conversation. It's got to have a very smooth flow. That's what I'm trying to articulate here in this. What I'm trying to, the way I'm trying to articulate at this point. So, you got to have a flow of that conversation already in mind, so that you, in a way, dictate that conversation, and then the person who's talking to you is already like, okay, fine. They know what they want. Now it's just a matter of opening Pandora's box and giving them that opportunity, or if in the future we can keep them in mind and give them an opportunity. So you need to have a strategy as to how you're going to approach that person even on that call. It could be a really casual coffee chat, but you need to have a strategy in place. Just can't jump the gun and say, do you have any jobs? You can't do that. You can't do that. Everyone's busy, but those 15 minutes that they set aside on that particular day, they need to remember you no matter what, whether it's 1 month down the line, 1 year down the line. So be very strategic when you are even getting those calls in place, whether it's an interview or even when it's just a random chat, a very casual chat that you have with one of the industry professionals who you're trying to learn something from. So that's my 2 cents on networking.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So everyone, did you like the tip? Let us know in the chat. We would like to hear from you. And thank you so much for your engagement. So we have 8 minutes left now. So I suggest I'll ask a question and I'll let one person respond, and probably let's do a couple of sentences only. I'll try to find very straightforward questions. So let's do that. So let me start. And I saw a question from Emily who asked, what do you wish you had known when you started? So if someone wants to jump in and give me 2 or 3 things, what do you wish you had known? Please go ahead. Nat, Alvin?
I can do that.
Sure.
So before I started this journey of looking for a job, the 2 most important things is, number 1, the importance of doing networking right. I was just adding people on LinkedIn before. It took me time to understand and build this process that I just shared. Number 2, I wish I knew that there needs to be a focus. You can't be all over the place. And it makes sense because if you keep changing your goal, of course, it's going to take you more time to be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that works. Thank you so much for sharing. So then we have a question from Pravani, who's asking about tips for resume building for beginners, and especially for people who has no experience. Anyone wants to share a tip?
There are a bunch of tips actually available on LinkedIn itself, and there are some amazing tips. I know someone who works, I know friends who worked in the industry and who've started working, who were trying to break into the industry, who've actually gotten a lot of tips from LinkedIn. Obviously, the internet is your like big repository of resources where you can actually fix and put your resume together. But one thing I would agree, and the one thing I would put out there is, I started working in 2012, and yeah, it's going to be 10 years next year. It's ridiculous. But in the last 10 years, I've come across very few resumes that have stood out for me, whether it's me just working on the same level or just hiring. Being creative with your resume doesn't hurt. Like, don't have like a video essay, but be creative with your resume. Be precise with what you, with the skills that Nidhi mentioned, that you could be really good with the VLOOKUPs and putting pivots together. So talk about it. Don't shy away from being visual. So try to put all that information, condense it, be precise with all that information. But at the same time, don't shy away from being creative in your resumes. I've seen some really creative resumes, and I was blown away. Like, in those last 10 years, I remember those resumes really well, who those people were. And I wish we could hire those people back then. So even now I look out for something really creative, although I know things go to HR first, but even with HR shares that resume with me, sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, this person went above and beyond and try to put something creative. Because at the end of the day, I work for a media agency, someone works for a creative agency, so on and so forth, but we are working in that same realm, like in that advertising space. We are trying to be creative. We're trying to push consumer behavior in a way, in a much creative fashion. And if you're not being creative with your resumes, I think that is something that will really help you stand out. So it works for a lot of people. Maybe for some it wouldn't work, but you got to try. You got to, at the end of the day, we're in the business of ourselves. And if you're not we're not equipped and not creative in a way to actually market ourselves, then we're selling ourselves short. So that's my 2 cents there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we have 4 minutes left. I think we will have a couple more questions. Just a reminder for everyone, please send your questions in a QA box. We are not going through the whole chat for questions, so just QA box, please. And we have a question, very interesting actually, about internship. Do internships really matter right now? And will they help you to get a job? Anyone? What do you think? Nat?
Yes, for sure. Internships, it is the perfect way to have a work experience. There are so many opportunities out there. So for sure, I believe there is no doubt that an internship will be helpful. I'm not sure if I answered the question or...
Do you think the internship needed to get a full-time job? Because after graduation, we usually or go for internship, hopefully paid internship, or we go for a full-time job. But sometimes we are not sure if we want to get a full-time job, maybe we don't have enough experience. Do you think that internship really matter? And in the long term, they will help stand out in the industry?
Yeah, I guess internship, it is both for both sides, not only for you to have a job, but also for you to understand the culture of the company. But I would say it is not obligation to get a full-time job. I can speak for myself, even though I have many years of experience in Brazil. I arrived here without any experience in Canada, and I got my first position here without going to an internship. So it is completely possible to get a direct job, but if you go to internship, it is the perfect way to make sure that you fit with the company culture and if you fit with the job. So I guess it is a win-win for both sides.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And hopefully the last question, is there any cultural differences you noticed when you came here to Canada? Is there anyone who would like to answer?
Yeah, I can go there. I can go there real quick. I know it's one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's so close with DE and I, the conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion that's happening. It's tough. Yes, you move to another country. It's a different culture, but what's culture? You know, it's the people. It's a culmination of different people, and it's a mix of everyone coming together, and that defines culture, right? Yes, Canada. Like if you're in the GTA, it's a different culture. You get out of the GTA, it's a totally different country, culture in those tiny little hamlets across the GTA. But as a country, it functions a certain way. So, firstly, you need to understand Canada in a way, the inception of Canada, the idea of Canada. I would suggest people to do some research. But yes, it was a struggle initially because for me, as someone who came from a different country, language one, I was lucky enough to actually go to a Catholic school and English being my medium of education. But not everyone's medium of education or their first language is English. So I would always recommend immigrants when they come in, don't be scared to speak up even with an accent. An accent is and I wouldn't call you guys brave, but that's what you are. Like that's your identity. That's what you bring to the table. So if don't hesitate, just talk. Just don't, and there's gonna be people out there who are gonna say, okay, hold yourself back. Don't hold yourself back. Just talk. If you have an idea, just speak up. Whether it's in school during group projects, whether it's during an internship when you're in those rooms with those important people, speak up. Don't don't hold yourself back because fear is a mind killer. It's from the recent film Dune, and I'm plugging Dune because one of my clients is Warner Brothers. Please go watch the film. Besides that, please don't let fear hold you back. Open up, and that's how you will start assimilating in the culture. You don't want to fit in; you want to blend, and you want to teach something about your culture to that individual as well. Another thing that I always tell individuals who, my fellow immigrant brothers and sisters who moved to Canada as well, I've always given one piece of advice to them. And I think this has worked for me so far in the last 7 years is when you come to this country, pick up one sport, start watching one televised sport, or just start streaming it somewhere, watch highlights. There's so much you can learn about culture, pop culture, subcultures, about the advertising media space. You will learn about ad spots that run during your televised sporting events. There's so much that you can learn from just following one sport religiously for maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and then you will just be engrossed and you will watch that sport every night before you go to bed. Another thing, how it helps, let's say you watch a game, the next day you go for a meeting, icebreaker right there. Do you watch the game last night? Oh, I watched the game. Yeah, one thing leads to another. You are having a chat for 30 minutes with a client just as an icebreaker. That helps. So just tiny little tidbits, learning about cultures, so to speak, but it's a culmination of so many different things. So many different immigrants have been coming to Canada year over year, year over year. And as Caitlin first acknowledged during this call, just when we started this virtual event, where the way she acknowledged the First Nation communities, and where we are actually standing on these grounds where these belong to the First Nation communities. First thing I learned about the First Nation communities was when I first came to Canada, and that's when I learned so much that they had gone through. So I would recommend people to learn about that, learn about the idea of inception of Canada, and learn those different things, but don't hold yourself back from ever speaking up. That's one thing I want to tell my fellow immigrant brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Josh, I see you and I know what you're about to say. Will we please give one moment to Nikki to just
one moment, yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. I just want to come straight to the point. I'll talk about two differences, cultural differences that I noticed between Canada and India, coming from India. Number one is here, it's in India, what gets you the job are the hard skills. You know the job, you can do the job, take the job, take it. Here, it's all about soft skills. It is all about that cultural fit Can you work with the team? Can you fit with the company, values and, things like that? It is more about that. Second, coming from India, they value more collectivism. And here it's more about individualism. I'll give you an example. When I go to interviews, and if I say, I did this, I did that, in India, this is something that is looked down upon. We always say, we did this. It looks like you are bragging, but here it's not the case. If I go to an interview and I say, we did this, the interviewer will be confused. Are you talking about yourself, or are you talking about what the team achieved? These two are the major differences. And otherwise, here is the culture of small talk. In India, that doesn't happen. We come straight to the point, straight to business. And that's one thing that I got feedback in my current organization, that my emails are always about straight to business. So thank you so much. I think I will go overboard on this one. So thanks so much.
We need more emails that are straight to business. I love it.
Yes.
All right. So I have a great prize, which is a tour of Pinterest, and probably they'll get you coffee as well. This is run by Matthew and Caitlin on our Ad Club Student Committee. Both work at Pinterest. This is a great prize, folks, to go check out that great company and organization. And the winners are, drum roll. That was a horrible drum roll. The winners are Marcus, and I don't have a last name for you, Marcus, so I'm going to DM you, and Ivana Savchuk. So Ivana Savchuk and Marcus, you are the winners of the Pinterest Great Office Experience. Make the most of it. We're going to DM you, get your details so you can set that up. My panelists, thank you so much. Darna, thank you so much. If you can hop off here, and I'm going to promote our other panelists on. You're allowed to stay on. Just turn your video off if you wouldn't mind, please.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was great chat. Thank you.
All right. John, how you doing? We have
Good, thanks.
Diana.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. We have Jed out there somewhere.
I'm here, but my video won't start. It says you've got control.
I do have all control, so give me a second here while I enable.
And Josh, can you bring me back as well? It's Chris.
I got you. All right. I think, is that everyone? Are we missing anyone?
We need Diana and Alistair.
Diana, we have you.
Yeah.
We just need Alistair. All right, Alistair, where are you at? I will get Alistair back, but really quickly.
I'm here, I promise.
You are there. I'll get you. Also, if you don't mind, just the right 3 buttons at the top right-hand corner of your screen, just rename yourself with your organization after your name. So just like I have Josh Donor, Ad Club, please. All right. And I'll figure out where Alistair is in a moment. But Chris, you could probably start kicking it off.
Great, thanks, Josh. What absolutely inspiring stories. Thank you so much to Alvin, Nidhi, and Nat for candidly and passionately sharing your experience, advice, and tips. I have goosebumps, literal goosebumps. So now we're excited to introduce our next Professional Perspectives panel in collaboration with M2T Collective, being moderated by Jed Schneiderman, SVP and Industry Practice Lead at Cognitive Corporation, and one of M2T Collective's founding members. He'll be joined today by the other founding members, Alistair Taylor, Diana Liu, and John Hillis. So Jed, over to you and our distinguished panel.
Thanks so much, Chris, and thanks for having us here. Maybe what we'll do is we'll just quickly go around the sort of virtual table with the 4 of us, just to tell you a little bit more about who we are and what we do in our current jobs. And then we're going to go through a couple of almost lightning round questions, so very quick questions. And then we're going to ensure that we've got ample time for folks on our virtual Zoom in order to ask a bunch of questions. So Di, maybe I can just get you to 30 seconds or less, just introduce yourself and tell folks just who you are, what you do, and then we'll go to Alistair and then to John.
Perfect. Hey all, happy to be here. Diana Liu, I lead our advertising business for the strategic accounts organization at LinkedIn. I've been at LinkedIn for about 11 years now, and I'm one of the co-founders of M2T Collective. And so leading the advertising business means I basically run the sales and client solutions team for strategic accounts.
Awesome. We'll turn it over to Alistair. Nicely done. Woohoo. I can see Alistair.
Back.
There you go. Awesome. Okay.
For some reason, I think I'm on your link because I think you forwarded us all the link.
You are.
Anyway,
there's two Jay Schneidermans. This one who's about to speak is more senior in the industry and more talented and better looking. So pay attention to him, folks.
No pressure. Thank you, Jed. So yes, I'm Alistair. I'm the CEO of Publicis Media. It's nice to see Dania on the last panel from the Starcom team. Yeah, I'm excited to try and answer any of your questions and hopefully give you all a bit of guidance.
Great. And John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, happy to be here. Hi, everybody. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Battle Axe Throwing, and I've been in the marketing industry on the client side for about 20 years, working at all different kinds of companies from startups to large, and happy to be here.
So I guess maybe what we'll do is what the four of us discussed in advance of today's session, along with the Ad Club committee, was we want to the best of our abilities, share some experiences that are largely practical and hands-on. So with that, Di, I'll turn it over to you. And just from a formatting perspective, we'll be asking all the panelists the same questions. We've only got two, and then we'll get to all of your questions. But Di, like in the spirit of what we talked about, which is, you know, how does one create a break for oneself? How does one manufacture luck? What's the best career advice that you got? And perhaps, knowing our audience here today, some of the sort of salient or valuable advice you got at the start of your career.
Best career advice I got at the start of my career, I had a mentor that told me the wider your base, the higher you can go. And so when I started off my career, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so that was a hard thing to just try to pick something. And so for me, it was try to anchor in skills and experiences versus jobs. And so I made a list of all the types of skills that I needed to learn that would serve me well later in my career, and all the types of experiences. You know, go and try to sell, go and try to be in marketing or product or something that I loved, and just go and collect those before really anchoring on job titles or jobs that I want.
And if you think back to the start of your career, or even some of the folks that you manage today, what are some of the skills that they can go out and sort of develop on their own, things that don't have like a high financial threshold, stuff that folks can, you know, get going tomorrow, skill wise? Yeah,
I think influencing skills, whether you call it sales or not, I think all of us play a role in selling. We have to influence to an outcome. And I think there are a lot of great courses out there that help you understand how to influence without authority. So you don't have to be a leader to do that. You can do that in any capacity. But that is something that I've seen serve people really well in their career. I have this discussion with a lot of folks where, you know, is curiosity innate, or can you build that? And I do think that curiosity is a really important thing to have in your career, to always stay curious and ask questions. And so that, again, that's something that there are a lot of courses on. How do you actually just be curious? How do you ask really good questions? And I think that those two things would be top things that I would say anyone can go and learn and read about on LinkedIn or otherwise.
Okay. Alistair, over to you. Best career advice you got, ideally thinking back to the start of your career.
Yeah, so funnily enough, I would say the best career advice I got wasn't career advice. And it was actually when I was about 8 years old. And some of you who I know, like Caitlin was on the last time that I did this ad club, I was asked, you know, what advice would you give everyone? And I said, remember, everyone matters. And it was my literally my junior school principal that told me that, right? And it's so true, right? To Diana's point, have a wide base, right? Everyone that you meet, you know, you can't treat everyone like an opportunity. You want to actually meet them on a genuine level, right? But ultimately, when you do connect with people on a genuine level and realize that all of those people do matter, then they can help bring opportunity to you. You'd be amazed how many people, you know, are in my LinkedIn Rolodex that I know and I can vouch for. And that's kind of the point, right? And I often get asked those kinds of questions. And sometimes it's like, look, I can tell you that the person's great. I've never worked with them in a work capacity. But ultimately, even that is valuable.
How does that advice play out when you're new to Canada? So, you know, when you have, you know, fewer tools to work with, or your network is non-existent or very small, how does the everyone matters play out when, you know, you have perhaps less to give because you're new and you need more from your new country or new environment?
I think it's about how you think about value exchange, Jed, right? You know, it doesn't actually cost anything to do a bit of research before you meet some of these people, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy, I think, to, you know, reach out to someone like me and ask me a couple of questions. Some, you know, there's people in the chat saying, you know, congrats on the recent Meta win. People have done their homework, right? That's added value. That's, you know, that's made me feel good about myself. Thank you for that, by the way, whoever that was, right? No, but it's true, right? That adds value, right? And okay, just because I'm the CEO, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but you know, it doesn't matter who you meet from Publicis or Spark Foundry specifically. If you say to them over the next couple of days, hey, congrats on the Meta win, that instantly buys you a soft entry into a conversation.
No, I think the idea of research and prep, which is consistent with some of the stuff that Di spoke about today and what clearly we speak about every week in our very productive weekly meetings. We all know that's a great reminder. John, over to you, same question.
I think it's less career advice, but it picks up on a theme that Diana talked about, which is asking questions and being curious and inquisitive. And it's something that I remember from my very first interview getting hired, that asking great questions can really differentiate you when, you know, the playing field is level on all other things. But I don't know how many people I've interviewed and seen over the years that you go through a great interview and it's fine, and then you ask, do you have any questions? And people don't have really good questions. And people that do have good questions can really make a difference. And it can help you in your job, asking questions and really understanding things, and also in interviews. And by great questions, because we all said we were going to try and be practical, you know, what's a great question versus a normal question? I mean, a normal question is a question just about the job if you're in an interview. But, you know, asking about the company, or what do people look like who are successful here? What kind of characteristics do they have? That's a really interesting question that a candidate could ask somebody to try and differentiate themselves in an interview. So the whole thing around asking questions will go from any age and from any job.
So building on the idea of practicality, Di, if we're to shift gears slightly and we think either about prepping for an interview or finding a job, feel free to pick either one of those. What's like a tip that you rely on or you've seen other people use to their advantage? So, you know, one tip that someone can do either in finding a job, applying for a job, or prepping for an interview.
I mean, John just said it, and this applies to all of them. It's do your homework. You know, I think John and Alistair said it. Today, the bar, the expectation for what you know coming into an interview or reaching out to someone is pretty high, and a lot of this information is available. So Alistair called out, someone sent me a note and said, congrats on the Meta win.
Yeah.
Right? Like they researched Alistair, they knew something about him and used that as a way in. So if you're looking to, and I see this question in the chat too, if you're looking to try to get a coffee with someone, reaching out and saying, hey, do you have 15 minutes for me isn't really helpful. Be more specific, do some research. Hey, congrats on that big win. And then add a question in there. Would you have 15 minutes to chat with me about that and other things? I think in an interview the same way. You know, I do hundreds of interviews a year. And I'll tell you, the folks that come in to interview for my team or my company that have no idea what we do, like that does not set you up for success, especially since it doesn't show me that you actually want the job. Like you came in and you expected me to tell you what things. I don't need you to be right about what you know. I just need you to demonstrate that you've done your homework and you've really prepped for this, because that's an indication to me of how you would show up. If this is the thing you really want and you didn't do prep, like how would you actually show up in the job is how I think about it.
Yeah, that's actually probably a point worth repeating, is that the conduct or the way you show up in the interview, most folks in the absence of any other information are using that as a proxy for your level of preparation for a client-facing role, or even the way you would show up and prepare for someone else within your own company. So I think that's a good point. Alistair, do you have any?
Yeah, you know what? I was going to tell a story that I think illustrates this point nicely, and it's so, you know, again, like Diana said, you can search for me on LinkedIn and you'll find comments that I've made and articles that I've written. And someone came for an interview, and as we went through the process, when I asked what is my favorite interview question, they were like, "I knew you were going to ask that," and I was like, "Oh, really? Why?" And they said, "Because one of your connections asked for great interview questions, and that's one you put in." And they were prepared.
Awesome.
And the question is one that you three are very familiar with, is how did you prepare for this conversation?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I almost didn't need to ask that question with the answer that I got. Right. I was kind of like, okay, right, this person is getting a job.
Yeah.
Right. It was just a complete head and shoulders moment where they were just like, yeah, I've done my homework.
But that's also a good reminder, is it not, that for as much as one conducts formal interviews, you know, tie goes to the one that maybe does something different, and it come down to something as simple as finding the article in which you're quoted, bringing a hard copy, bringing printed questions, calling it out. You know, there's sort of the emotional and the rational side of hiring, and so that's actually a good example.
Well, and I think in fairness, you know, we're all relatively senior, relatively profiled people. You know, the chances are that most of the people on this call are not going to be interviewed by someone like us.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a very specific example, but if you take the same principle and apply it, like there's lots of things to be learned about all the organizations we work at, right?
Yeah. So John, I'm going to shift gears just because watching the clock and knowing that we've already answered this, one of the questions from the group is, you know, you do a lot of hiring in your company, you know, at facilities, on your team and all that. One of the questions is, how do applicants deal with job postings that require 3 to 5 years of experience? And they may not actually have the requisite experience, but they think they can do the job and they'd like to apply for the job.
So it's a good question. It's common, and common issue, and I had it on my list of things to talk about. Is there is going to be lots of times where you don't have all the skills that are listed in the posting, but you should apply anyway because you don't know who else is applying, and you're not quite sure what it is they necessarily need to solve, and you just might have something that they need. So just because you don't have all the qualifications doesn't eliminate you from applying. Now, on that, you know, applying gets you some of the way, but back to this theme of doing research and stuff, you probably need to do a little bit of research and, you know, reach out to somebody who works at the company and ask them some information and see if they can help you and see if they can figure out, you know, what are they trying to solve with that job posting? What does the company actually need? So don't be too, you know, don't be dissuaded from applying for something just because you don't have all the qualifications, but know that applications on their own probably aren't enough. You need to do that research and follow up and figure things out.
Cool. Alistair, Di, any thoughts on that comment about applying for jobs where maybe on paper you don't fit the requirements?
I guess I would add, this can sound a bit strange, but I would say fight the system. right? So, you know, we're a big company, LinkedIn's a big company, right? There's going to be certain requirements that get screened through a process of applying for a job, right? So if you're underqualified on paper, you're probably not going to get through. So that means you got to fight the system, which means you got to go after someone like me or someone like Diana, or, you know, find out who the head of talent is and think about the reasons why you wouldn't have got through that screening. Right. And it might be years of experience, which frankly is a bit of a lazy proxy, but it is what it is. Right. It exists. We can't change that. So rather than demonstrating years of experience, demonstrate value that you've delivered to your previous organization or your current organization. So it's about, you know, it's competitive out there for sure. So, you know, just firing in a resume with a cover letter, you know, that just won't get you there if you're not on paper qualified.
So Di, I'm asking this question because it was thrown down in the Q&A, and we're all terribly biased as those connected to M2T. Di, agency side, client side, where's a good place to start? And you can't say M2T is a good place to start, so that's off the table.
All right. Well, aside from M2T, I honestly, it really depends on what you want to do. If I were to do my career all over again, I do think that I would have spent some time at an agency, because at an agency there is a ton of work to do. There's a ton of people that you can learn from, and then there are repeatable processes. And so I think I would have spent more time doing things over and over again to help me understand, do I like doing these things or do I not like doing these things? Mm-hmm. And so and then I think by and large, like most of the agencies, especially in Canada, that like they're big enough where you can move around and explore different types of roles or functions if you do a good enough job to help you figure out what it is that you want to do. Whereas, again, you know, from my experience on the publisher side, there are only a handful of roles in Canada that you can really move around to and get that type of experience before you get stuck in a path. So I'd say, you know, early in your career, just optimize for learning a ton. And that goes back to skills and experiences versus trying to pick a set path. And again, in my experience on publisher side, it was via an AM, like an account manager or a customer success manager or an account executive. There weren't that many other options outside of there, where I think on the agency side, there are much more roles and opportunities for you to learn.
So Alistair, if you take what Di said and then you sort of flash forward and you look at career progression, is there any correlation between where people start and how they progress? Like, is there a defined path? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, to be honest, it's probably a big hindrance in our industry that most people who are leading agencies have only ever worked in agencies.
Yeah.
Most people on client side have never worked on agency side. Yeah. You know, for me, to go back to the sort of original question, there's no right answer. It's dependent on your personality. I know that I love variety. And if I was working at an iconic brand, I don't know, like a Nike, I know that I'd get bored. I just know I would, right? And that's why I like my day. It goes from like beer 1 minute to, you know, cosmetics the next. That's what helps me thrive. So, you know, I guess I would say look inside yourself to decide where you want to go versus picking one side or the other.
That's fair. John, we're getting a whole bunch of questions around how folks break in and network. We've got, you know, one question. Maria's located in the Dominican Republic, and she wants to know how she can impress an agency or a company. We had someone else asked, you know, how do they go about getting 15 to 20 minutes with someone's time? So, you know, you've seen a lot of different people, you've been in different organizations. Anything strike you in terms of, you know, how people get noticed, how they make connections? We've talked the formal stuff. I think Di's made a good point around, you know, what can you give? But let's be practical. If folks are in different countries or they're very junior, the amount that they have to give purely on a theoretical basis can be tough.
Yeah, Agreed. And so I think that, it comes back to this, it's a little bit of reality, right? Like if you don't have a lot to give, you have to be prepared for, there's going to be lots of times where it's not going to work out. So having some resilience is probably pretty important. And I would say, set yourself a goal. Say, okay, I need to network and connect with whatever, one person a month or two people a month or whatever it is. And there's going to be lots of strikeouts in terms of just reaching out to people and trying to get people's attention. But it's a matter of, like, you really have to find the right person. And I know if you reached out to any of the four of us, we tend to answer those people and say, yeah, no, sure, I'll give you 15 minutes, even if they don't have necessarily anything to give us. But that's not always going to be the case. So I think it's be resilient, keep trying, reach out to people, tell them your situation and what you're trying to solve, and be clear on how they might be able to help you. And I think there was a point earlier, like there's nothing worse than getting a really general request and you don't really know what to do with it. Try and lead the person to, hey, this is the problem that I'm having. I'm wondering if you can help me with it. And maybe then they can answer it and they'll be happy to give you that 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's probably worthwhile to circle back on Diana's point, and then I have a follow-up question, which is it's how you show up. So once you get the 15 minutes, if we go back to what Diana said, you better be prepared, right? You better have questions, you better have a specific ask. A personal favorite of mine is people, we all have something to offer. So even folks can say to a total stranger, is there something I can do to help you? So I think Alistair's point of, everyone matters, we all can reciprocate in some way. And I think that's important to keep in mind. And again, back to Alistair's point, it's probably a good way of building a relationship from the beginning. So
can I just add, Jed, on that?
Yeah.
I would add, the best chance of getting in my calendar is tomorrow or in a month. So if you reach out to me with a specific request, you better be ready to have that conversation the next day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, don't make that call until you're ready. Right? And these guys know, like my calendar's constantly, everyone's calendar's constantly moving, right? But sometimes like an hour opens up tomorrow.
Yeah. So, be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we got a question about how folks, I'm not going to answer how to prepare for the M2T because this isn't totally about that. I'll try to circle back. But Di, newsletters or information sources that you find are helpful, like rapid fire. Give me two, and then I'll go to Alistair and then John. So max of two, other than LinkedIn.
Oh wow! Well, Jed Snyderman's profile, he shares a lot of good things there. No, I'm serious. If you please go follow Jed. Jed shares a variety of different things every day that really helps you widen your perspective on what's happening in the industry. That and the drum. I'm a big...
The drum, okay. Alistair, two newsletters or info sources that you like?
So I'm going to go really left field here. Honestly, stay current, right? And I mean, like I still go to the BBC for my news. I know that sounds odd, but the news inevitably leads me to somewhere else, which leads me to somewhere else, which leads me to somewhere else. It's back to that sort of curiosity. I find so much of sorry, Diana, like the LinkedIn space is I find it quite vacuous. Right? It's all like everyone patting their own back. It's about self-promotion. But sometimes you will find something interesting in there, but I do think that's kind of where I'm at in my career. For me, it's about the basic principles of leadership now, right? Do I need to know about like the latest way to shape the greatest content strategy? No, I need my people to know that, right? What they need me to know is how to lead them. So maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, I guess.
So make it specific to the stage of your career, the job that you're going towards. Keep those things in mind.
Chris is pumping the message.ca, which to be fair is as good a source as any you'll find in Canada. In fact, it's the best source. So I would agree with that.
John, anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure how relevant they are for everybody, but I love the Hustle newsletter, e-newsletter. It's great daily and it expands horizons, stuff you don't think about in thinking different ways. And I find Scott Galloway, the NYU Stern professor, is a really broad and different thinker. He was calling out 3-4 years ago that big tech was a problem and that it was monopolistic and anti-competitive. Whether people agree with that or not, he was calling that out way before people. So those are two things that I really enjoy and make me think a little deeper about things. And to what people were saying, it's also a conversation starter and also helps you broaden your network when you can talk about more things.
So I'm going to sort of jump in and try to save Diana on the LinkedIn comment here. I think I do think one thing that folks can do is it's a really valuable tool to follow and watch people that you're trying to connect with. And the example that Alistair gave about someone who read something about his interview question, you can watch what people do on events like this on digital platforms. And then you can see what they're interested in, what they write, what they like. And then if you do get a chance, and then to Alistair's point, you better be prepared. Your opening question could be about something they commented on, and that establishes a little bit of interest, a little bit of status equivalency. It forges a connection, specifically when we're all quite remote. So on the spirit of job hunting and finding jobs, Di, what's something that I'm going to try to wrap two questions into one? Thinking about the M2T interviews that you've done over the last 4 years, what is something that someone has done in that interview process that stood out that you remember? And I'll have the same question for Alistair and John.
I think the videos that stand out, actually, I'm thinking about one of the folks that went through and she did her video hanging off of a rock wall. I'd say things that stand out for me, people who have a point of view, people who show courage of their convictions. There's no right answer. Most of our interview questions are, we just want to know what you care about, what you're passionate about. And so if you can have that shine through, that's really helpful. You as a human. And so this person who I think it stood out for all of us, she is avid rock climber and just did her video on a rock wall, and that really stood out. It helped that her content was also very good. And so, but I'd say try to lead with your passion, because that will show through versus you thinking about what you think the right answer is that we want to hear. Because it's very obvious to us when someone is really passionate about an area versus when someone is trying to tell us what we want to hear, what they think we want to hear.
Alistair, anything that stands out for you that someone did that was memorable and or ideally effective in the interview process?
So there's a couple that spring to mind. We've been quite fortunate through the NTT program to meet some extremely accomplished young people, right? And it's been fascinating when, through the interview process, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I did ballet to an almost professional level for 8 years. And you're like, what? What you probably don't know about me is that I love ballet, and I think it makes a mockery of professional athletes, to be honest, because I'm like, these guys know how to work hard, right? And that was amazing to me. We had someone else who was like, oh yeah, I rode for Canada in the Commonwealth Games, and we're like, this wasn't even on the resume, right? And then there was one person as well who was kind of like, oh, well, I did prepare this presentation if you want to see it. And we were all kind of like, what? Well, yeah, sure, we'll see that. And, it was 95% right, which was staggering for someone from the outside looking in. And it's interesting, there was a reference somewhere in the Q&A about people who are extroverted versus people who are quiet. This particular person, and you all know who we're talking about, it was very introverted, but incredibly smart and confident and kind. And that's what came through that process. So, people should not be looking for the loudest voice in the room. They should be looking for people who can try and make them look smarter.
John, any past experiences from the M2T interview process that stood out to you so as to make a good impression?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick one. There's one that immediately came to mind, and Alistair and I were in the same interview. And the interview wasn't going all that well, actually. We weren't really seeing, we saw the resume and the resume was great, but we weren't getting a feel for the candidate. And so we asked a couple of questions and she started to tell her story. And it's kind of back to what Diana said about a genuine story. She talked about how she immigrated and she went to school in the US and all the problems she had had, and she had had family issues. And the story, like, we started to really find out who she was as she started to tell this story. And that made all the difference between a bad interview or a not great interview and a really great interview, because she was more genuine and was able to relate who she was and how she had gotten there. And we ended up hiring her. And I think kind of the lesson there is to, as well as, if you think an interview is not going that well for you, you can be bold enough to say, closer to the end of the interview, I don't think this went the way I wanted it to go. I don't think I got to present my full self to you. Can we stop for 1 minute and I can tell you why I'm right for this job? I mean, it is a bit of a bold move, but if you don't think the interview's gone that well, it can change the course of a decision. And that's what I kind of got from that one M2T interview.
Yeah, there were numerous times where we've done interviews, and just for folks who are listening, we always encouraged folks to ask questions if they didn't understand. So we heard from the previous panel about cultural differences. It's okay to ask clarifying questions. It's also okay to take time to compose an answer. It depending if you can read the room. Asking folks if you mind if you take a little bit of time to compose an answer. It shows thoughtfulness and those things. So to John's point, one example that comes to mind was when we were interviewing in our first year, we had someone overseas where there was massive technical glitches. And so adversity can often present itself in an interview. And it's also a wonderful opportunity to show how you handle. So we had a person that I think called in at 3 or 4 in the morning. None of the technical stuff worked. She ended up doing the interview on her phone, if I'm not mistaken. I think we were on her phone, as was she. I think we switched over to WhatsApp or something like that. And she ended up joining the program. So there are many companies that are famous for asking the front desk staff how you behaved when you first arrived. So Alistair's point, everyone matters. So how you carry yourself in the office, even from the first person you meet to the last person, and how you handle yourself forms impressions. We are at time. Di, there was a question in there about LinkedIn. I'll let you answer it. It was slightly more of a LinkedIn product question. So I'll let you answer that. And
I have no answer to that question.
Yeah,
I'm happy to.
No answer.
If you want to send me a note directly, I can share that feedback.
We did have some questions around design portfolios and the like. I don't think the 4 of us are probably the best to answer that question. So read it, but chose not to address. So Josh, I think we'll hand it over to you because we're at about 7:01, 7:02. And I think we'll say thank you very much, Di, Alistair, and John, and that's a wrap. And Chris as well.
Killing it, Jed, as always. Where can people learn about M2T Creative or Collective, sorry?
I think you dropped the URL in the chat. It's m2tcollective.com. So the letter M, the number 2, and then T. Videos from past applicants are available on YouTube. It's a great place to go and learn. We are holding an event. Vivian Lee has dropped in to the chat. We've got an event happening shortly, so folks can register for that. What we always say to folks is, even if you gain exposure to us, we're really, there's no competitive advantage. We share the same information with everyone. We're trying to make this very democratic and very sort of even. And again, back to the earlier questions, we want to make this as open and available to folks that have networks in Canada or are brand new to Canada. So there's no inside track on any of this. We share the same information with everyone, which we're quite proud of. And that's one of our little sort of cornerstones of our program, which is our values are we are trying to create more opportunities for folks that don't have networks. At some point, going back generations, we were all at one point new to this country. Some of us, it's 0 generation, some of it's 1 or 2. And this is about, building a great community. The folks at Ag Club are really leading the way, and we want to make this a great industry. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're just going to wrap with a few prizes to give away here. Let's see. I think we have the MX gift cards first, courtesy of M&K Media. So the winners of the 3 gift cards are Taylor Talmage. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these correctly. Parth Grover and Aditya Nair. So we have your email contact, and we will find a way to get you those Amex gift cards. So congratulations. We also had a draw for 10, that's right, 10 LinkedIn premium subscriptions for 6 months, courtesy of LinkedIn. Thank you, Diana. Those are going to Jordana Provenzano, Ankita Singh, Jasmine Busari, Rafael Schmitz-Mayer, Adriana Garcia Hernandez, Sean Kazansky, Michelle Fernandez, Nicole Shane Perez, Priyanka Gunjal, and Ali Battersby. So thank you again for to LinkedIn for those subscriptions. Man, I've never had a LinkedIn premium, but those are incredible. Just unlock a whole new set of capabilities on the platform. So congratulations to everyone. And we have all your contact info, and we will find a way to get you all the right information. I will now hand it off to Caitlin for some closing remarks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What a great event. I hope everyone found that valuable. I was definitely leaned in the entire time. So much great conversation. And thank you so much for the Q&A engagement. One last prize that is yet to be announced is that we have 3 Spotify subs. So you need to post a picture on LinkedIn, post a picture on Instagram, hashtag Ad Club Student Day. That is how we're going to choose the winners. You have a week to do that post on any social channel, tag us in the hashtag. So we'll be announcing that. And then our last ask from you is we are going to put a Google survey in the chat. We would love to have your feedback. This event is for you. Once again, we want to make sure that we're having the most valuable content for you. So please do fill in the survey. It should only take a minute or so. Thank you so much again, everyone. I know we're a few minutes over, so thank you for attending. Happy Diwali and have a great evening.
Get those surveys in, everyone. We appreciate it. Follow Ad Club on LinkedIn and drop some love in the chat here for all our panelists, attendees, and all of you. And Boris, of course.
A goodbye to Boris. Moving on to Ad Club Digital Day, as we mentioned at the beginning, definitely check that out. He's currently planning that upcoming event. He served as co-chair on the committee since the beginning for a few years now. So big thank you to Boris. We will miss you. And we're so happy to have Chris chairing the team with myself as well. So appreciate everyone.
Want to share a word, Boris?
I want to say thank you to everybody for showing up over the years. This is an important event to not only for the industry, but me personally. So I wish I had something like this when I first started. But thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you all at Digital Day.
You have a great haircut, Boris. I'm glad you did it for tonight. Thanks, buddy. All right, everyone, we're gonna wrap this up. You'll get the recording and whatnot, and you can skip through it on 1.5 times to speed it up. Love you all. Have a great night. Be safe, and thanks for joining us.